Hey, what's good, y'all? Welcome to the Next Block, episode 99. We're real close to our 100th episode. So today we have a special guest that I know a lot of people have been waiting to hear from, and we got him on backstage waiting. So, Crypto for Change, how's it going?
It's going good, going good. The last few weeks have been a lot of fun in the crypto markets, so can't complain there. It maybe who knows? Maybe we're about to see a breather in the markets. It definitely looks like Bitcoin's starting to lose some of that. So, some of the stocks starting to maybe drop a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
The Ides of March, the 15th of March, you got to watch out because that's a time when, there's some uncertainty maybe around the corner. But these dips, I still think are going to be the ones for buying. I think there's still a lot of alpha out there. I still think there's a lot of, I saw a good tweet today that kind of said, his kind of breakdown of how the next maybe month, 6 months are going to go is going to be crypto might take a, 2 steps forward, 1 step back, and then 5 steps forward, 3 steps back, right? But you're going to get these ebb and flows, but these are the ones that are leading up to, and the final one was like, then you're going to get that 50 steps up and then like 150 steps back. So that's that one, that move, that impulse is the one where you're going to want to hop out, and lock in a lot of those profits as you're on the way up. But no, it's everything's been pretty bullish. I'd like to see Algorand finally turning it around.
Come
Obviously,
on, Algo.
yeah, excited to dive in and learn a little bit more about Cardano from Sean Ford. Obviously, he's was the CEO of Algorand once, so there's that connection there. And then so many other ecosystems. Base just cut their fees almost down to a penny. So
Yeah, the Dinkin upgrade.
there's a lot of things going on. Just in crypto in general, outside of just Bitcoin, and it's an exciting time for sure. So yeah, that's where I'm
Yeah.
at.
We got the Bitcoin halving coming up. Very excited for that one. If y'all have experienced a Bitcoin halving before, this will be my first one, actually. First one I paid attention to. I was
Yeah.
around, dabbled in Bitcoin around 2018 or something. Definitely didn't hold what I had, but it's all good. Here we are. Yeah, so then Ethereum had the Dinkin upgrade. That's what we're talking about, where the L2s are more scalable. And I
Yeah,
always
it's
see
called
the
blobs, I think.
yeah, blobs. Yeah, and I see all the algo found writing on Brian Armstrong's tweet talking about we've been scalable, we've been had low fees. I
It
hear you,
is
algo found.
true. It is true. And maybe we'll get Sean Ford's thoughts on this as well as far as it pertains to the ease of use, of Cardano versus, some of these, Ethereum layer twos. But I will say, as a Algorand maxi for a long time and someone who has just, been diehard into Algorand, base feels smooth, right? I mean, I do know, I know when base first launched, it did go down, right? And so a lot of these layer twos on Ethereum, you have to worry about network being up or down. Solana, the same, even though it's fast. But as far as just the ease of use and just the fluidity of it, it doesn't feel vastly different to my experience now that I had with Algorand. So competition's creeping up, and I think that's good for Algorand too, because it means everybody's going to be fighting for that top spot.
Yes, I'm always a Cosmos ecosystems bull,
Mm,
but injective fees damn near at zero right now, and that thing
yeah.
fast. And I saw it shoot up the other day. So shout out to all them. If you with the injective community or Cosmos Osmos, definitely reach out. We'd love to have you on the show. Yep. Daisy says OP stack and smooth. It's very true. Very true.
Yeah.
So let me show y'all
Super
one
chain
thing.
narrative is coming.
Yeah. Before we bring on Sean, let's show y'all. We have our giveaway. So those who don't know, we're talking about the lofty giveaway for 300 algo. This is tokenized real estate on the Algorand blockchain. We will make the announcement later today about who won. So I know Uncle Sam is up in there. Shout out to you.
Yep.
And shout out to everyone else who has been participating. You got a few more hours, and then we will hit the wheel of names and announce the winner on Twitter. All right.
Yep.
Yep. So without further ado, we'll bring on Sean Ford on the show. Welcome, Sean. How's it
Hey
going?
guys. Good, good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah,
Yes.
thanks for joining the show, and excited to dive in on to Cardano. We've had a few guests from Cardano on the show, in the past, but it'll be exciting to hear your take now, moving recently over there, and kind of what you've got to experience. So I think one of my first questions, and maybe one that some of the audience members would enjoy hearing, is did Cardano, did they come after you? Did they headhunt you, or was this just you just wanted to test something different out? You obviously had a long time at Algorand. I think it was like 5 or more years working over at Algorand Inc. And so Was what was that move like for you?
No, well, I like to go to blockchains that have never had any downtime. That's kind of my big. So one to as a core requirement. No, so honestly, I have so much gratitude for Algorand in my time there. It was transformative for me in ways I can't even describe. And that's a sincere statement. Just really lucky to have worked with the talent that that organization had. And no, I quite honestly was about to take a pause. I thought, well, I've had a long run here. I want to figure out what I want to do next. And the actual story is that I had met Charles, I don't know, a half a dozen times. Charles has always been very Charles Hoskinson with Cardano. He'd always been very publicly complimentary of Algorand's tech. I mean, you can go back and find it, and I think rightfully so. And it means a lot coming from someone like Charles, who's also very deeply rooted into technical excellence and rigor. So there was always sort of a mutual appreciation. And as I thought about what I wanted to do next, Charles knew I was moving to Wyoming, which has been in the works for quite some time.
Yeah.
And Charles is also out in Wyoming. You can that from his Twitter feed. And so we had a little bit of a discussion around, what are you thinking about doing? And it was very friendly and sort of when you said, was there targeting or did they headhunt? No, it was you're here in Wyoming. Like, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
Sort of that.
I mean, I know pickleball is really big in Florida. Is pickleball really big in Wyoming? Like, I know it's cold out there.
Everywhere. It's big in Cayman Islands. It's big everywhere.
Yeah.
So no, but so we had a really good conversation and said, where do we, based on a few discussions, where do we think there's opportunities to create value, originate value in the Cardano IOG ecosystem, and then beyond that. And I think that sort of gravitated fairly quickly over to the idea that stable assets are I think showing quite a bit of promise, and I think Nick Carter calls them the killer app, and there's just a lot of great value to be generated in that space. And to be honest with you, Cardano's ecosystem could really benefit from a broad strategy of connecting the right pieces to drive liquidity and generate stable assets intelligently versus just I think I said this before, if you build it, they will come idea, the field of dream strategy. If we just launch something, people will use it. That's sort of the old model. And we're trying to bring a bit of sophistication with the assets that are already at Cardano, as well as a broader view of what it takes to generate real sort of transaction value and volume through stable assets. Yeah. And that was the discussion. And we agreed, let's give it a go. And so that was about how it happened. It's pretty organic.
He's like, that's a great pitch. Let's make it happen.
Yeah.
I know. And how lucky, how lucky, what a great, for anyone out there that is thinking, at what they should be grateful for. I am certainly grateful for the ability to work with really smart people previously at Algorand and then here at IOG that allow us to create and be innovative and try to build things, which is what I'm excited about.
Yeah. And you're pretty much starting like an entirely new, maybe branch, I guess you could call it business, right? Called Stablecoin Co. Or Stablecoin Company, I'm guessing. But who else is a part of your team there? Did you build this team by yourself, or is this something that, Cardano's just kind of been picking and finding the pieces?
So actually we announced, we had a soft launch. We did it intentionally this way. The company's name is XY, XSY. The way I remember it's sexy. It's a sexy company. So XY is how you say the name. And really the S, and if you look at the logo, we designed it, which is, I want to just go to the logo, but there's a point to be made, which is, we know that the S in XE is bracketed with coding brackets. And the reason we did that intentionally was that we see the development of real technology and real stable assets as being core to what we're going to do. And so that's the name. So yes, back to your question, it's been a combination of taking on and starting to manage the pieces within Cardano ecosystem that are relevant to creating a platform that allows for the generation of economic activity and drive, transaction value and volume systematically rather than sporadically. And so there are a few, there's a number of people now that are in the organization that were pulled in from the IOG team to form this. And then there's also, I've also brought in a number of folks that some of you may or may not know. David Markley, who worked with me for years at Algorand, he's the chief operating officer, just a great operator. A guy named Brandon Wolf joined. We just announced him yesterday as our CTO. Brandon really kind of did the sort of strong technical work. I always say that there's a scene in Christmas Vacation, which is an old movie, but I think it's a classic, where they pull out the Christmas tree lights, angle the ball, and Clark Griswold says to his son, Rusty, untangle these, and it's enormously complicated. Brandon sort of has come in as we've thought about when he was at Algorand. He worked heavily on FIFA and on Napster, really helping get a bunch of that that technology straightened out and operational. And so we're lucky to have him. Ian Cross was at what Algorand running the wallet and working on the Para wallet and a number of other things there, as well as FIFA. So we've got those folks. A couple of people that we've brought in as institutional that have institutional capital market experience, and then Austin Campbell, who you may or may not know, is working closely with us. You can have advisors. But Austin's in the trenches. We meet, and he's really around. He's really a luminary as it relates to regulatory.
Maybe we lost him.
Oh, okay. I was like, yeah, I thought I was gone. Okay. Yeah, you said regulatory.
Gentlemen.
Let's see. Yep. Can you hear us? We can hear you now, I think.
Yeah. Are you there?
Yeah.
We're here.
The video is kind of slowing up, but I can still hear you.
So still a little bit fuzzy, but welcome to
Wyoming doesn't have fiber
bandwidth.
Okay, you're back.
All right, I'm back. Sorry about that. I'm really sorry about that. So Austin Campbell, who was at Paxos, understands regulatory compliance, has testified, in Congress for Congress in the stablecoin bill, and he's also a part of it. So it's been a collection of new and existing.
Yeah. So when it comes to stable coins, what are your thoughts on what Circle is doing with USDC and then Tether as well? We see Tether, I think, just crossed 100 billion in market cap.
Yeah. Well, I think so. First of all, I'm pleased at the progress that they've made, because I would say it's established. Stable coins are not a fad anymore. If you look at some of the statistics for stables, stables, represent, 10 to 15% of the total market cap of crypto, but they're, 80% of on-chain transaction volume at this point. And if you look, or in terms of dollar value, and if you look at volume, it's up there with Visa in terms of the amount of stable coin going across, those rails are comparable to any sort of Visa settlement network in 4 years. So that's great. I think though that, and I think in talking to Charles, one of the big comments was basically, well, if we're just going to create a bunch of centralized stables, haven't we sort of fallen away from the whole premise of blockchain and decentralization and having, communities be controlled by the community members versus centralized states? So there's certainly a lot of positives to what, Circle and Tether have done. But I think the focus here, and really the responsibility of the industry, is to try to innovate around different types of stable assets that are purpose-built, that are new, and emulate the principles upon which blockchains were created, which is, scalability, interoperability, and decentralized in the form of governance. And so I think that's really where our head's at, is trying to be a bit, think about next generation stable coins. That's really where our head is at this point.
Yeah. And I mean, right now it's like it's hard to get anybody to see stable coins as sexy because everybody right now is just chasing meme coins and literally anything that, 10x's in 5 minutes. I mean, that is the problem with a lot of crypto, right now is just, it's still very, very speculative. We really haven't hit that, that path to people realizing the actual utility behind these chains and what and how it can actually transform the world that everybody uses and lives in. But and with that, how with saying you want to make stablecoins sexy, one, what is the current landscape for stablecoins on Cardano like, and where do you guys see that you can improve it and create something that is next generation?
Yeah, so I think it's a great question. I guess I would step back a little bit and say that that we the philosophy that we're bringing to the table is at XE is that we have to focus on the types of assets that we create clearly and have them be purpose built and reliable and credible, all those good things. However, the only way they're going to succeed is if they're supported by an ecosystem and a system of tools and technology to allow them to grow and develop and be usable. And to be more specific, if we create a stable token or a stable asset, and we don't have a strong distribution strategy for that, if we don't have a strong sort of regulatory compliance approach, if we don't have a strong approach to security and privacy, then the token is just going to be like everything else and it'll never gain traction, or it'll there may be the random to the moon kind of a situation that you can't bet your career on. And so what XE is doing is putting together a platform with those capabilities to more consistently drive economic activity in the form of, it could be liquidity, monetary velocity, whatever you want to say, within native blockchains, and have it also be interoperable with other chains as well. Because if you think about blockchains, and I've said this before, if you look at them as if they're countries, you want to have a good sort of transparent understanding of what the economic health of a country is before you start investing in that country. Regardless of those metrics, countries that don't trade with anyone else or aren't interoperable with other countries tend to be, less attractive, let's just say. And so if you come back to, the state of I think you originally asked what the state of the stable coin situation is within the Cardano ecosystem, I would look at it more broadly and say that certainly we see a significant upside given the strong growth of the Cardano ecosystem, the large number of users. I think there's, I don't know what the total number, but over 8 million native assets within Cardano, massive growth in developer activity. TVL has gone up, which is a metric I sort of love and hate at the same time, but TVL has gone up pretty dramatically. And so what we see in Cardano is an approach that will greatly benefit from a systemic use of a number of the assets and tools they already have in their ecosystem, as well as the capacity, given some of the other characteristics of their economy, to really get behind some new and different sort of stable assets in particular. So I would say it is a ripe opportunity to be able to deliver what we're talking about, given the prominence of the ecosystem and I would say not vast numbers of stable assets that exist within that ecosystem. So that's sort of one part of it. I think I'll pause.
No, go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So
go ahead.
So the other part of it is that within Cardano, because there's a focus within the organization right now to, it's going to seem a little orthogonal, but it's not. So, all blockchains, whether they were L1s, they start and they took different paths to try to find ways to generate new revenue, new opportunities, and innovate, right? And many people spend time on making sure the core, layer one, the base protocol is performant and competitive, right? In terms of assets, capability, speed, all those types of things. And then oftentimes there's sort of a pivot to try to find new ways to quote innovate. And I think the lack of sort of discipline on that front across the industry led to things like the Solana telephone, where it was, I'm not going to go back over my thoughts on that project, but I would say that, great respect, they're doing great things out there, but give me a break. I mean, I don't know what the pitch was like for that, but it didn't make sense. And it seemed pretty orthogonal, again, to what their core value proposition was. And I think the thing about IOG and Cardano is there's a strong commitment that innovation, my opinion, by the way, this is my opinion, innovation comes from the core strength. So if you look at what's happening there, the supporting capabilities are being evolved to not just make the layer one maintain its, sort of competitiveness and performance, which is happening, but extend those core capabilities into new things like Midnight. So there's a project called Midnight that's being spun off. It's a data protection blockchain, focusing on identity and protecting the assets and allowing, users to protect that very sensitive information while still getting the benefits of a public blockchain that's, global and interoperable. And that's something that's launching and has been announced. But I think that that's an interesting extension of the core. And I think XE falls into the bucket of, Cardano has this interesting asset called Lace, which is a native wallet, which has some cool features and can be, kind of amplified and upgraded. There's an asset called JED, which is a stable token that is, I think, kind of underappreciated, but very innovative technically. There are, a number of other projects within Cardano, like Hydra, which is a series of scalability tools. All of these things that are going on that make the environment very ripe for us to put those pieces together and create this more systemic view towards driving economic activity and launch purpose-built assets into that environment. And so the last thing I'll say is that ecosystem and its needs is different than Algorand's, is different than Polkadot's, is different than others. The drive to liquidity has to be sort of purpose-built or customized based on the needs of each ecosystem. So what I'm describing is what I think the advantages are of the IOG ecosystem and what would be required, which could be very different from other chains.
Yeah, that sounds great, because it seems like I'm thinking about like Microsoft and some of the bigger companies. If they want to use a blockchain, it can't be a fully public blockchain. That's what my understanding would be.
Right.
And then I pay attention to Bitcoin a lot and the Lightning Network, and they have their decentralized, was it Damis that they're building and trying to use Lightning. What's the odds you seeing, or your thoughts on like having a crypto debit card, not like a Coinbase or a crypto.com card, but like where you can really spend JED, USDC, and those type of assets inside of supermarket stores and online?
It's coming. I mean, it's coming, and I know we don't have a lot of time, but I think we're coming up on something. But I think that my take there is that it's people just have to be patient. The evolution of, look, you mentioned Circle and Tether. You're seeing the rise in stable assets as there's greater regulatory clarity for use. There's going to be people that are grabbing onto ways to extend that to retail and drive additional transaction volumes more cheaply, more securely, for sure. So I think it's just a matter of time.
Yeah, I know for me and my wife, I know we are waiting for the day that, I mean, I'd love to see Algorand build something just because I'm very comfortable with using Algorand, or even, maybe like Base, now that I know that it's, cheap to use Ethereum that way. But for my wife's hair salon business, I would love for it to, us to not even have to worry about a bank account and just be able to, all clients be able to come in, and when they pay, that money goes directly into our wallet. We're not having to worry about paying, the fees to MasterCard or Discover,
Right.
all those things. And we're just paying the network fees. Like that's the future. I think everyone is wondering, when is it going to happen? And I feel like we are very close, but it just seems like, when you look around at the space and you see something like Solana, in its rise this past, again, you go to Dex Screener and you look at what's happening. The top 2 pages are nothing but meme coins. It's like, what really, yes, it's value that, you could say is being moved between, around, but what real utility, what life-changing things is actually being built on these blockchains. And that's where, we're glad there's people like you that are out there actually building cool stuff.
Yeah, you just gotta, try to reduce the, make the signal, adjust the signal to noise ratio. I think, you want more signal. And the one thing I will say is that there are signs, right? The signs are that, crypto is not a war on drugs anymore in the United States. It's like a real thing.
Yep.
There's a massive number of people united around the idea of innovation that is connected to crypto, and that's a real thing. The Bitcoin ETFs are real things. You see what happens with Ethereum. I have no idea, but I would expect at some point that will become a real thing. And so there's institutional resistance that has to be overcome. Back to the original question of having a debit or a card, a card of some sort that's connected to stablecoin stable assets. It's less about being able to do it, because it can be done. It's more about how do you, weave your way into the DNA of traditional financial infrastructures and get validation and innovate collaboratively versus adversarially. And there's just that distance that still exists.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's disruption, and no one wants to get disrupted, right? They got a monopoly. They have their, claws deep in America and in the world on just how to, control it. And
I could go down a rabbit hole that but it happens every generation. It happened with, and the car engine. Go research that and see how long it took for them to, start to implement innovation that they've held on to for years and years, because it was threatening the status quo.
They have electric cars in like
100 years ago.
Yeah, way long ago. Like they could have had the technology that Tesla, has got now, or the Tesla cars have got now. They've just suppressed it because you make so much money off of people buying needing to buy
someone's holding on to how the pyramids were built. No one knows. Exactly. That was a long time ago.
We need to, all right. This show right here. We need to have another show with Sean Ford where it's just off the, we're just talking some conspiracies. That would be a good one right there. I need to come out to Wyoming.
You know the difference between a conspiracy theory and the truth is 6 months. That's basically it.
That's a good one.
All right. Yeah. Let's take a quick ad break, guys, and then we are going to come back. We got some more questions for Sean Ford on Cardano, so stay tuned.
Shout out to our sponsors, NFD, Examarket, Gore, and Lofty. Here we go.
We are back.
Yes, welcome back. Episode 99, y'all. 99. We've been coming at you. So yes, Sean Ford, let's dive more into the macro environment. We're talking about, potentially stable coins adoption. What are your thoughts on the Bitcoin ETF and its effect on the overall market, and boomers and all the other groups who have not been inside of Bitcoin?
It's so funny. Thank you for not including me in the boomer.
No, you're not a boomer.
I'm not a boomer. I'm not. I'm a proud Gen X, and believe me. And my generation has been getting more and more cred lately, so I kind of appreciate that. I don't even think I ever met my parents, like that kind of thing. So I think I've always had a a perspective that, you know, we just went into the break. It's about, you know, you have to look for signs that things have moved past the fad stage and into more of, in some ways, the substance stage, which then brings its own set of challenges, right? In terms of how do you innovate and continue to, you know, kind of work around a system that is inherently skewed towards, you know, certain people who are participating in you know, in economies. So I think that I think it's fantastic. The Bitcoin ETF is a massive validation point for Bitcoin. You're seeing, and for the industry, you're seeing the narratives start to change, because, you know, it used to be people that were against crypto or against blockchain used to be able to throw out, using their bully pulpit, blatant fabrications, and no one could hold them accountable. And by the way, many traditional institutions had no incentive to step in and hold those individuals accountable, because they were funding those individuals. And so it kept this walled garden kind of approach to the narrative. The ETF, I think, broke right through that wall. There are now, you know, what was it, 11 Bitcoin ETFs that were approved through, you know, a very difficult process, watching from the outside, but ultimately approved. And I think the response has been appropriate and enormous. And it's starting to change narratives where now, if you've noticed, many of, you know, either politicians or people in positions of authority are toning down some of their rhetoric.
Oh yeah.
Because not only are institutions seeing a big uplift, and I forget, I think it was a day ago, pulled in $1 billion or something. There was a day of $1 billion of inflow in one day.
Yeah, it's insane.
And that's, you know, there's a lot of money out there, and people that are thinking, I need to I need to incorporate this as part of my portfolio. And I would also argue, incorporate it in a way that's different from the way that crypto was incorporated before. And what I mean by that is, again, this is all my opinion and just seems logical. You know, if you're a portfolio manager of assets ranging from treasury bills and you know, bonds to stocks and other more you know, lesser known assets or newer assets, you know, in good times, everything's fine. But when you start to worry about the broader macroeconomic environment, you know, any risk manager is going to try to de-risk a portfolio. And of course, you know, the interpretation, whether it's true or not, if you look at equity performance and crypto performance, it's probably not so true. But that, you know, cryptocurrency or digital assets were more risky. And so, you know, back in the day, like a year ago, or whatever it was, you know, people started shedding those assets, which certainly contributed to the crypto winter that everybody saw. The reason I'm saying it's a little different now is that there's this understanding that's been developed around digital assets. And I think that they're being looked at as not necessarily the first thing that, if you're worried, you try to remove or de-risk a portfolio. They've become, I think, more of a part of the core discussion of any robust strategy for people that are involved, whether they're major banks or other types of institutions or funds. And that's a good thing. Yeah. Because that opens the door for other projects. And ultimately, I still believe the credible projects will ultimately carry the day. And I think, you know, Cardano is one. I certainly think Algorand is one. And part of that is, you know, not playing into the mob of current, you know, thought, and just hope you're sort of running along with the latest trend and fad. And there's a lot of noise there. Like I said before, signal to noise. But in this particular case, you know, sometimes things don't happen exactly when we want them, but in the long run, they will. And I think the credible projects and the ones that are doing real building and real work are going to be around for a while. And that will ultimately still make, you know, they'll still make themselves known to people that are watching the space, you know.
Yeah. You have Gary Gensler has been defeated a few times, and the biggest one was XRP. And I was always a big fan of XRP, but it's happy and it's positive for the industry as a whole to, you know, get more clarification out of that. And again, we still have to win over Jamie Dimon, but we know JP Morgan is buying Bitcoin as well. They're doing it for their clients. So, you know, a little double talk is still there, but it's hard to deny, you know, Bitcoin is being an incredible asset, and it's still so young.
Right.
You know, so.
And I would say Coinbase wins, you know, you'll see a lot more people getting in line.
I think so. I think so. And again, I've always said this. I think every credible project is very interested in clarity from a regulatory perspective, and happy with clarity. And the sad part is that other parts of the world have that and have taken the lead in terms of innovation and development, that the United States, I think, being a US person, so I'm very biased, I think the US needs to take its rightful place amongst the leaders in the space, and we're just hurting ourselves.
Yeah.
I have a couple questions here as well. One, I want to know, what is the current, it's kind of like zoom in on Cardano and then also compare it maybe to Algorand, your past experience. What is the current, like, is USDC on Cardano, or like what is the largest stable coin, I guess, that is used for, people who are on Cardano? And then also, just because you are from Algorand, and you talk about, these blockchains with substance, the ones that will, are credible, so far, what are your, opinions, thoughts on the differences maybe between Cardano and Algorand, and how they, are fit for purpose in their own respective categories?
Yeah. So if you look at, people can go to the Messari report, the latest Messari report, and take a look at all the different assets. There are a number of different types of stable assets within the Cardano ecosystem. JED is one that I mentioned before. There's IUSD, which is Indigo is there. There's a handful. But as I go back to, but USDC is not, and I go back to what I said before, is that, every ecosystem presents an equal opportunity. I think Cardano's got a nice, TVL, sort of increasing TVL, but I think needs to assume its rightful place in the stablecoin discussion. And there's, like I said, a huge opportunity to do that within the ecosystem, given the size of it. If you look at the comparisons between the two, there's a lot of similarities. I think I did sort of joke when I came on that, zero downtime in my career in this space is might be the thing I put on my tombstone. It's just going to say zero downtime. I don't know what that means, right?
Right.
So I think that, there's similarities there. There's similarities with respect to a great commitment to research and academic rigor. I think Charles, the number of papers that Cardano has published, it's a very disciplined and detailed academic environment that's done a nice job of translating that to new products and innovation. I think Algorand also had a very deep commitment to research with Silvio Micali and other luminaries at that organization. And I think that's probably why there was such a high degree of mutual respect between the two organizations for so long, because they're the OGs of research, all like to hang out. So I think that's a similarity. I do think there's a strong similarity towards a drive to decentralize. And one of the things that I know Charles talks a lot about, and we used to talk about quite a lot, is that's an unsolved issue for the blockchain and crypto community. There is still a need to push forward and decentralize appropriately and find the right way to govern those decentralized systems. So, if you look at, as we talked about with some of the stable coins that you brought up, USDC, Tether, those are more centralized assets, and we can't continue to gravitate that way. But we also don't want centralized authorities just reinventing the same thing that the banking system did. So an idea of an evolved governance structure that, both allows for the evolution of your community, driven by the community, is something that I know there was a strong commitment before at Algorand to work through, and there continues to be. But I can tell you that is front and center. And if you watch Charles talk, he talks very eloquently about the imperative for rethinking governance and how that's done. So like in Cardano, for example, there's 1 billion ADA that is in essentially like a sovereign wealth fund that can't be touched by anyone, that the community ultimately will be able to vote on how that's deployed into ongoing innovation, and that's not controlled by anyone. And if you look at a number of the things that are being created technically within the Cardano ecosystem, it also is encouraging the use of sort of a revolutionary way to think about voting and putting that into play around all decisions that are being made. But it is a core challenge to create activity with a decentralized voting system.
Yeah, we see we had Chris Bard on. He'll be back soon enough with Project Catalyst, and that's something that is very interesting, a great way to get the community involved, and so they can decide on what they want to build. And from my understanding, Cardano is one of the most like decentralized blockchains as well, with the nodes and distribution.
That's right. So if you look, there's a EDI, which is the Edinburgh Decentralization Index, and they're planning on having 7 or 8 different criteria to evaluate the degree to which blockchains are decentralized. But one of the first things they put out was block generation as a proxy. And if you look at the block generation and sort of where blocks are being generated across, all the different sources, it's the most decentralized based on that metric. And there's others that are coming that I think will also prove that out. But the big challenge is, how do you, what is an effective decentralized government look like? It's a prerequisite to get this right, to appropriately evolve our industry in a way that doesn't end up emulating what we have all seen our whole lives, which is very centralized power brokers in charge of most of the major needs of people around the world.
Yeah. So when you look at, we all in the US. So most of us don't know who is how these politicians or people got chosen. And if you just go down to the local levels, it's like vote and you got a list of names of people, but you don't know kind of what they stand for, what they're about to do. And then a lot of times they get voted in, then they go back on everything that they said they were going to do. And there's really no consequence there.
There's no accountability.
No accountability. So and I see in some of the other blockchains like Optimism are doing retroactive rewards, which I think is another great idea. It's like, prove yourself, here's a little bit of funds, and then we'll give you more once you are consistent. Yes. And I think that's something that as well, why Next Block is a show that we try to educate people on. That's where we bring people like yourself. So I believe that we need a lot of education for these DAOs and all these decentralized governance, but I see us heading in the right direction, especially like you said, sovereign funds that we all can allocate and use together. So
it just seems like it's so. It just seems like that's such a tall hurdle. I mean, that's the one thing that I keep coming back to when thinking through that in my head and going down that rabbit hole of how do you truly in a way disrupt and overthrow the current regime without it having to be this massive cataclysmic event, because nobody wants to release power when they have it, and that's a tricky thing, at least in my mind, looking down the road. It just you're seeing things happen. Elizabeth Warren, right? You got John Deaton running against her, so you have good people that see. And I think, as well as education, we need more people who are actually want to change the future in a good way, to actually fight and get into these positions. And at the end of the day, we also still got to hope that they don't have they're not being paid behind behind the back doors to say, hey, once you get in, then we can do what we really want to do.
Well, we should check in a little while, and I can give you where I think some of my interests are in that particular space. So I think that if you wanted to create a crypto party, you'd have, I don't know what the number is, 50, 60 million. I don't know, pick your number of. It's completely bipartisan group of folks that have the same attitude that you both just described. It's sort of, you think about what can elevate us back to a unified and, more cohesive, at least tolerant country. It may be that blockchain and crypto is certainly one of the things that could do it, because we certainly saw it with the infrastructure bill when that was being debated. If you remember, there were people that were saying, I can't believe I just liked this Ted Cruz quote or this tweet, right? It's my third one this week. And I actually like Ted Cruz just fine. I think that, but it's not a political comment. It goes both ways.
Yep.
You see these people that you'd never expect to be together, unified around this concept. And I feel very lucky to be in the great state of Wyoming, where, Senator Lummis has been forefront in trying to provide this clarity and an environment for this type of innovation. So if you're ever in the vicinity or thinking about Wyoming, I would give it a big thumbs up. And it is incumbent upon people to get involved in making this change, or being a bridge from the sort of traditional power structures, and, to use your phrase, educate them, so that at least the debate is one that is based on a mutual desire to learn rather than a mutual desire to be right. And that's the big difference that I think we need to be able to work through.
Yeah, definitely. Because, when we talk about the overall landscape of crypto and just technology in general, United States was like the forefront and the leader. But with this technology, as we see, blockchain could be for transparency and all the organization and use cases. Now we're taking a step back. And I think that's definitely not the best idea. We should move forward there.
What a threat.
Yes.
What a threat.
Yes.
If you have 50, 60, 70 years of centralized power and control across any number of places, do you want to go to a world with full transparency?
I know I know my apartment complex wouldn't like that, because they haven't gotten us, we live here in Florida, and we don't have working, grills outside of our apartment complex, and they don't want us to see where that money's going, because we know some of it needs to go to get us some new grills.
I would bet you could do 50 episodes on a list of examples. I mean,
exactly.
So again, there's that, when you talked about earlier, the resistance, I think, is less about technical innovation, less about skill, and less about risk, as it is inherent resistance from existing power structures to change.
Yeah.
And the Bitcoin ETF was a great step forward in legitimizing a whole bunch of things that it will drag with it, like innovation and acceptance and reasonable discourse.
Real quick, I do have a question just to pick your thoughts on that. Do you think, now that ETF has been approved, obviously everyone is already starting to speculate on Ethereum, just because obviously it's the second largest cryptocurrency and it's got the biggest ecosystem. Do you think, like you said, with the credible blockchains that are out here, do you see ETFs, being built, around, grouping maybe some of these other blockchains and things like that? And how far out do you think we are from something like that?
Oh, wow. Geez. I mean, so I think
it's like, it's here, but
let's go back to human. Let's go back to human nature. Humans originally traded, like bartered.
Yeah.
Okay. It was a very binary, like this sheep is worth those two cows, or whatever. That's probably a bad trade. That's intuitively that'll be a bad trade, but you get my point.
Yeah.
I would probably take that trade if I was the sheep guy. But I think that I think the innovation that occurred on types of assets, they're exponential. You get in derivatives, you get in a spot market, you get all these things that were created off of trading, like a lumber for straw. Like, I have no idea. And so you're at the point now where, like, cryptocurrencies existed. There's different ways that people are looking at. I want to talk about that topic, and if it's okay, in a second. But but cryptocurrencies, and so there's been a lot of innovation on types of products within the crypto world. But now that there's a bridge into traditional finance, let's not pretend we're cracking the atom. Let's go back and look at the evolution of traditional financial products, and I bet that overlays almost directly with what you start to see as more institutional players get involved in the space, for sure. People are going to look at, like, an ETH, ETF, if that ever comes to be, as the equivalent of, like, someone who created the wheel, or created the axle that goes in the wheel. It's like pretty early, but it should rapidly accelerate. The one thing that I do want to bring it back to is one of my stump issues. It has always been, I'll never forget this. I asked some people, how do you think about the measurement of value and economic health in blockchains? And these were pretty experienced investors, and they just stared.
Yeah.
You know, there and so back to, you know, the point I want to make is that there's a real responsibility that I feel and that I think we're going to embed in our sort of strategy with XE, is that we have to get away from the number go up, project good mentality, right? And that's what it is. And then these graspings of TVL is here, but look at these transactions. And then there's manipulation of speed and CPS to advantage. And it's sort of like, you know, back in the Middle Ages, people used to think tomatoes were poison, and they tried to grasp to explain why, and they just assumed tomatoes were poison. Well, tomatoes were often served on lead plates, and it extracted the hazardous elements of lead when you ate the tomatoes. So people just assumed that tomatoes were poison. And we're kind of in a situation where it's like everybody just wants to see a number go up and feel good about themselves, but it has absolutely no direct relevance to what I would call sort of systemic value creation. And so what we're talking about doing is really shedding a light on a series of what we would call macroeconomic metrics that would allow for cross-chain a comparison of economic health in the same way that you would with a country. And so at least let's back to the point, I think, I forget which one of you made this, but back to the point of, you know, we need to start having reasonable discourse. And in order to do that, people need to be willing to change or give up their particular calculation that shows them in the best light, so that we can level set and start to talk about what economic health really looks like, and how do we start to assess that as people that might want to build in those economies, or people that might want to interact with. There's a whole bunch of things there that we as an industry need to be responsible for and be more adult about it.
Yes, economic health, economic security is very much so important for building.
That's right.
So,
I was just going to say, I feel like most people here in the US just don't, you know, they don't feel the pressure and the need for that, because I feel like so many people just, we're living comfortable right now. We're still, you know, I feel like we are. We think we are, right? It's complacency. People are just complacent. They're, you know, they can push it off, right? They can just kick the ball down the road, kick the debt down the road, whatever it is, and they don't have to worry about it. But it's like that is, you know, you can only kick it so far before we just got to deal with it.
Yeah, we're in a world, unfortunately, of weaponized data that is exponentially worse than it used to be. Always has been. There's always been some form of that happening, but it's exponentially worse. You talk about, you know, big data. We've got big weaponized data and platforms that allow for global distribution of that weaponized data, and people that are intentionally doing it because they don't want to have a direct conversation about the truth. And so I think that applies not just in things that you could pick things you want to talk about. I'm not going to talk about any of those, but let's just talk about like economic performance within blockchain ecosystems. What is TPS? Is it I sent it? Is I sent the transaction? Or is it
transaction?
Is it finalized? Is it message?
Or is it in the mail? Or by the way, is it just a note field, like a little script in a note field, or is it a smart contract? And does that move at the same speed? So you get into this, you know, hang your hat, we're the best bullshit. And I just think, you know, we need some adults in the room to kind of elevate the discussion in a way that we can start to talk on an apples to apples basis. XE is going to be one of those adults. I will tell you that right now. And I'm excited. I actually am really excited about that part of what we're going to be doing, is providing that transparency.
When are you guys planning to roll out, like, you know, I guess a formal, like, you know, Twitter and website and everything?
Well, we have
so
XE underscore Phi is on Twitter right now and LinkedIn, and we also have a holding web page, right? And I can send you that. But it's, so essentially that's up. But it's not super exciting because, like I said, it was a soft launch, and people started to hear that a number of us had joined this company called Stablecoin Co., which wasn't really exactly what we were doing. So we felt like we needed to announce the name. So to answer your question, we're looking at sort of early Q3 timeframe is what we have, or Q3 timeframe to sort of come out in a more formal way.
Nice.
That's gonna be great.
Super exciting.
Yeah. So I want to get to some of these questions over here, but before we do, I have one myself. So we know, like, Algorand at this moment is focused on like certain countries and demographics. So they're looking into India and they're looking into Nigeria to do a lot of their work as of today. Is Cardano doing anything similar? And then what regions of the world?
Yeah, well, I mean, RealFi is a project within Cardano that's focused on Africa in a similar way to some of the projects that you mentioned. I think that look, there's an interest in Cardano being a global, inclusive, egalitarian ecosystem, and so the hungry pursuit of a particular territory or region hasn't really been front and center. I mean, opportunities come up. We engage in, I think, Charles is a world traveler for sure.
Yep.
And I think he's an evangelist for, all of the scalability, interoperability, and governance, aspects of a legitimate layer one that are required. And I think that's really where we get our international diplomacy. But look, I mean, we have participants and applications, globally across the Cardano ecosystem, but I don't know that there is one particular country or geography that we're focused on. It goes back to what I said before, was how do you extend off your core strength and build innovation off that core strength to allow easy participation in those innovations. As I said, Midnight, they said, Xe, a number of the other components, Hydra, a number of the other things that we're putting in place in the IOG space.
Definitely makes sense. I mean, it's a big planet, and every country has its own specific needs. So,
I think it also just stems to the whole, kind of what we've seen happen even on Algorand to an extent. Like, blockchain should be and is open for the entire world. And the cool thing about it is any business, any country, anybody can just find one that is fit for them and start building. And that is, I just think that's the coolest thing. Like, just opening your market to literally the entire world, but not having to, obviously if you choose a blockchain that's cheap and fast, not having to maybe deal with all the middlemen that's going to take all your profit and all your, and slow you down from growing, the successful business that you want to grow.
Yep.
Yeah. I was buying something and PayPal was like, I need everything from you. They didn't want all my address. They wanted the fees.
Well, and that's like, blockchains are terrible at keeping secrets, though. I mean, that's that's why the privacy side of things is really a big area for innovation in the space. And why I think
I feel like once you see privacy layers like fully implemented to the level that big businesses are comfortable, I think that's honestly when you're going to see crypto go mainstream, because then they know, hey, we can do what we want to do over here, and then we can show our hand that we want to show over here.
Yeah,
and that's why Midnight. That's why Midnight is one of the first things that's being launched out of IOG, is to address that specific situation. So I think that you're seeing real resources be deployed towards solving that problem.
Yeah, because we use so when we buy most of our stuff from Amazon, we send it to now a store, get it to a box. So I'm like, I don't want my address out on everything, or my phone number. So I'm like, let me just buy and you send it and I'll go pick it up down the street.
But wait, well, how about this? How about taking it one step further? Like, forget the information just getting out there, which is one problem for sure. But wait a second, like, how come you're making all your money on my information? Like, how about a little profit share here, man?
Yes.
You don't get to just use all my data, my activity, my demographics for you to make money, Facebook. Or
Facebook's the worst.
I'm just saying that, and that's one reason why. I mean, even from an NFT thing, I thought it was so crazy. I walked into the Walmart and I saw the Pudgy Penguins merchandise, and now they're going to the whole thing where if you hold those NFTs, you'll be able to if and you can actually license them now. If someone wants to pick your NFT and use it in some form and market it, you're able to make money, right? And I don't know if the creator of Pudgy Penguins shares any revenue from sales, from Walmart and stores with the holders, but I'm sure there's something. And that is the cool thing about all the DAOs and all the decentralized nature of blockchain, is the fact that you can start to share, right? You can start, you don't have to just be a player, you can actually be an earner in the game.
Yeah. All of our wallets should be just getting filled up with money on the daily from all the data. You know what I mean?
Right. It is true.
Yeah.
It is
you know what? I agree with that. So let's,
yeah, we talk about. All right, so let's hit this question.
My wife would be happy then. I might be able to actually, make it a point that what I do is actually worth it.
Right. All right. So Kenneth says, do you see areas where Cardano and Algorand could work together for standards?
Oh, for sure. We just talked about a bunch of them: privacy, governance. I think, to be honest with you, there have been discussions, and this wasn't just within Algorand. I'm sure it's everywhere. I know there's lots of conversations within IOG about this, and I have to believe any reputable blockchain ecosystem around a collective project to define standards, technical standards, exchange standards, all of these different things that I think could be done in a way to sort of raise the level of the entire industry, and just some basic agreements. And you could do it in ways that doesn't, hamper a particular advantage you might have technically. I mean, even just bridging or interoperability is something that has to be solved, and nobody loves, the existing options right now.
I think a lot of people would love to see some of those collaborations, like I think we just saw with the DREC alliance with Algorand and Hedera, and that asset recovery tool. I think that would be. I know one thing I'd love to see Algorand, work with Cardano is how to maintain that market cap and price the way it did in its last bear market. That's the one thing I want to know. What has Charles Hoskinson done over there to maintain staying in the top 10?
He does it. All right, let me throw this one out.
I'm not commenting.
Yeah. So a couple questions about Folks Finance. How can they integrate if it's going to happen? So if you know what Folks Finance, a big DeFi lending borrowing platform.
DM me.
Yep. Yeah. Okay.
Hey,
I mean, if you look at what we're building is one of the key things I mentioned multiple times is interoperability and exchange. And it could be that Folks Finance and other applications become the de facto bridges. Stablecoins themselves could become the de facto bridges. You have a redefinition of what interoperability means. And so I'm not kidding. I mean, if the Folks Finance folks want to reach out, hit me up.
Yeah, Benedetto's been on a mission. I mean, they just moved to Avalanche. I know they're looking at moving to different ecosystems.
SUI.
SUI.
Yeah. Yep. So this one for you, will Sean Ford do another Thought of the Day series again?
Those did not do well. I tried that and no one cared. And by the way, I changed my profile picture on Twitter and I just got completely like nobody sees anything anymore. All I did was change my profile pic. So I like that. I'll probably once Xy's out, I'll do this sort of random AMAs, which I think were pretty
those were
fun.
good. I love those.
And the only constraint there is my ability to type with my thumbs. On my phone, but I happy to do stuff like that. I appreciate that anyone even remembers that.
That's funny. All right, this is the final one. I'm not sure fully what this is, but ask him about MakerDAO. What you know about MakerDAO?
It's
okay. XBAC community. We need more.
I mean, I understand the mechanics of it, like the liquid finance on Cardano has got elements of MakerDAO, and so I mean it's look with like DAOs I think are super interesting. We've certainly, as we look at the assets that we're contemplating, certainly we're looking at some of the things that have been particularly popular and worked well. MakerDAO, that model has a number of elements that we find interesting. So I'm not going to go into detail around what we're thinking of launching at this point, because that would be super fun for you guys maybe, but not for me. And so, but yeah, I don't know how to answer that other than to say, I think it's a great innovative model that, has a lot of interesting elements that should carry forward.
I got one last fun question. Me and my wife, we've always talked about, if we ever wanted to buy land, and Wyoming might be the spot. Where should we buy land in Wyoming?
Oh man. Well, look, Wyoming isn't real. There's a shirt that says that. I hear that everyone I think walks around. It is a beautiful state. I will tell you that we live in the northeastern part of the state on the opposite side from Jackson. Jackson is if you're a billionaire, go have fun.
That's
it's stunning, worth visiting, but it's so we found a place that is in the northeastern part of the state near the Bighorn Mountains. We love it. I can see the mountains out my way. I mean, it's
that sounds nice. Isn't Kanye out in
so Kanye was near Cody. It was so funny. So I'm on one side of the Bighorn, and Kanye, I waved to him. He's on the other side of the Bighorn. But I think he got rid of all that land, to be honest with you.
I feel like maybe Wyoming is still one of the spots. Obviously, I don't know what towns, but I want to say it's still one of the spots that has very lucrative, like if you want to get land, like they'll almost give you land as long as you plan to build a home on it. Like, I don't know.
Not no more.
I mean, the word is out.
No, the word is out. I mean, it is a great place. And Charles is south of me by a couple hours. Big state though. I mean, there's really only 5 or 6 big cities in Wyoming. It's the least populous state in the United States.
Yeah.
What?
So do you have horses out there? Do you like to go riding, or are you,
I do like to ride. We were gonna. I've always said this, and I think this still holds. Like in a post-apocalyptic world where the cars are all not working and an EMP was used to disable everything, I'd be able to get around pretty good on a horse.
See,
Like,
definitely. That's what I'm thinking. Like, you got to go up to those areas.
Yeah, I would do just fine. And I have my go bag ready and everything in case stuff happens.
Sean Ford, he moved out to Wyoming. He's got the doomsday shelter built. That's what
I'm ready.
We're seeing
our
the bunker
family
right
has
now.
a plan. We've got a plan to get
gotta have
to
a plan.
up. That's it. So
we're slowly
anyway,
starting to get around to that. The only bad part is, if crap hits the fan, we ain't getting out. Like the interstate's jammed, we're stuck here. But at least I'm stuck on. I'll just go swim out in the ocean and just watch whatever it is coming.
I'm in Oregon. It's pretty nice, so I got a few.
So
options.
we'll get together. You come to Wyoming. You're not that far, right? You just need to come east a little bit. The rally point is the northeastern part of Wyoming, and I'll give you coordinates after. I'm not publicly sharing those, but we have a good setup.
You can send them. Hopefully, send them in a algo transaction in the note field. There we go.
That's it.
Yeah,
that's actually smart. Yeah,
that's right. Community rally. So there you go.
All right, Sean. Is there anything else you would like to share about what y'all building here at Cardano?
No, I would say I just want to thank you guys for having me. For people that are watching this, I lost my voice. I was supposed to come on, so I apologize. And so I did wait and say, you guys are the first ones I'm going to talk to. So check that box. And I think that I feel really grateful for everything you've done for Algorand and that community. And, my heart is still, a big part of me is with that group. And I hope to, what we're doing, building new at IOG, where my focus is now, there's going to be a lot of ways to work together going forward. And I'm excited about that. So thank you.
Definitely.
Well, obviously we appreciate you coming on the show, and obviously a big headliner. You were episode 99.
Wayne Gretzky.
Technically, then I won't take that away from you. I was going to say we did have an extra episode last week with Mark Yesko, so technically this could have been seen as the 100th episode, but we'll still flag it as 99. And our hope
if you go from number 99 to 100 on a sports team, it means you're like the fan of the day. They give you that number to run out on the field, with 100. That's kind of. I'd rather be 99.
All right, we'll keep you at 99. A player.
Yeah,
there we go.
Anyway, thanks, guys.
Appreciate it. So we're gonna pull you off the screen. Yeah. So great episode. Sean Ford, happy to have him on the show. We'll definitely do this again sometime. So people are asking about our 100th episode. We were working on it. We tried, and we will not be having
Silvio's too busy for all those who are still maybe it's something we could work out down the line, but we tried our best. We had the connections, we had all the right people, I think, give us the good enough word, but it's not going to be there. So we are still going to try to do something cool for the 100th episode. We'll let everybody know as we get closer, but currently we don't really have anything lined up specifically. But maybe we'll have to do something a little bit further down the road. I'm not gonna lie, I am a little bit bummed out.
Yeah, I am too, to be honest.
And this just goes to obviously it's kind of like after the end of the show, kind of off the cuff, not just kind of speaking my mind here, but I don't know. This still is just part of the reason why as we've kind of been in the Algorand ecosystem, and why I think certain people have been frustrated is because it just feels like that disconnect, right? And that from the maybe foundation to the community, from the ink to the community, and just that whole side of it. But I'm still bullish on Algorand. I still love what Silvio's doing, but I do think from a leadership perspective, right? I mean, we just got done talking to Sean Ford, and obviously everyone knows about Charles Hoskinson's, right?
Yeah, yeah.
If you're
Ice
in
baths,
crypto,
everything.
yeah, yeah, exactly, right. If you're in it, you know what he's doing, and I really do feel that still that is where Algorand has dropped the ball, and that is just the fact that, like, if people know about Algorand, it's because they start learning about the tech, which is a good thing. I'm not going to bash that. Like, the tech is what it is, and it's fit for purpose. It's ready to do everything that blockchain needs, and more. It's already scalable, like we said at the beginning of the show. Coinbase, Brian Armstrong, everybody dunking on him. But I do think that from a marketing standpoint, Silvio being more in the limelight and getting out there to really push it, I think it could go a long way. I know John Woods and Stacy have been doing a hell of a job out here with interviews.
Shout out to them.
And shout out to them. I mean, heck, they've been on our show, each probably 4 or 5 times. And so excited about that. But yeah, definitely, bummed out that Silvio's not going to join on our 100th episode. But
I know, perfect. We threw him the alley-oop, off
we
the
did.
glass.
Yeah, it was off the glass. He was there, and he straight up swatted
he
it
missed
away.
the dunk. So, but yeah, so we'll get to our announcement, and we were about to close this show out. Again, we will be announcing the giveaway. You'll have a few more hours, so make sure that you tap in on this giveaway. Support the ecosystem, support the Algo fam, and we have a nice gift for the winner there of 300 Algo, and the price is going up. It ain't all about price, but the price is right now. So again, congrats to the winner. When we do announce them, you'll see the wheel of names.
Yeah, and shout out to hold on one second. I see Joshua McAllister. He's a young guy that I met here in Florida. He was on vacation. Yeah. I met him at a coffee shop, and he was an aspiring YouTuber. So what's going on, Josh? Hope you're doing good, man. And yeah, keep creating content, and one day you'll have a channel probably bigger than ours. Wouldn't take much.
Most definitely. All right, y'all. We will see you next week for episode 100. The big one.
With who knows who.
Anything can happen.
Yeah.
So all right, y'all. Until the next one, y'all have a great day or evening, and peace.